Hey, that didn't look too good. Why don't you go talk to your coach?
You alright?
Yeah, I'm a little shaken up, but there's only 10 minutes left, and it's a close game, so I'm going to stay in.
Alright, that's good, if you say so.
This scenario exemplifies why concussions are preventable and underreported. What went wrong? Well, the player and coach both should have recognized possible concussion symptoms, like the player being dizzy, and removed the player to minimize further risk. This is a common problem, as, according to a poll by brain injury expert Kelly Sarmiento, over 60% of athletes did not disagree completely with the following statement. If I'm hit in the head and have a headache, it is okay to continue play as long as I don't lose consciousness. At Sunset, 40% of surveyed concussion recipients did not leave play immediately after the concussion. Whatever the reason is for this, it put players at risk for worsening their concussion or getting another. Our goal is to help solve this problem, as concussions are a serious but often preventable injury through awareness, education, and rule and policy changes. Data and research on concussions prove that this hypothetical scenario represents a serious global problem and local problem. First of all, it's no secret that getting a concussion is no fun. While football is the poster sport for concussions, they can happen in any sport or activity. Here's the distribution of concussions by sport and gender nationwide. And at Sunset, according to our survey, there have been concussions in sports you don't typically associate with head injuries, including BMX, snowboarding, running, and swimming. As noted in an Oregonian article by Amy Green, concussions can lead to headaches, dizziness, fatigue, memory and concentration deficits, irritability, mood changes, and loss of consciousness in 10% of those affected. This is a local problem as well. According to our anonymous survey, symptoms among Sunset students have ranged from dizziness and nausea to memory loss and even a torn retina. Local high school athlete Ben Keeney can testify that getting a concussion negatively impacted his life.
So what were your symptoms?
I had some head pain, and I found it hard to think in class at school, and it was kind of just like really noisy.
If concussions are so bad, then how come, as estimated by Mayo Clinic concussion expert Catherine Nanas, 50 to 70% of sport-related concussions continue to go unreported or undetected? In other words, why do so many athletes stay in the game or return to play too quickly? Well, the overarching answer is that athletes enjoy the fun and thrill of playing a sport and helping their team. In general, this is why people play sports in the first place, despite the risk of injury, concussion or otherwise. However, if there is any chance a player has a concussion that is not fully healed, the balance between risk of further head injury and reward of playing a sport quickly tips toward being too dangerous. Thus, a great deal of progress in managing concussions can come if coaches and athletes realize when the risk outweighs the reward. Improved concussion education would be an adequate solution here. According to a peer-reviewed study by North Carolina athletic training professor Jonah Register-Mihalik, 70% of unreported concussions were unreported because the athlete did not think it was serious enough to report, and 15% did not even know that they had suffered a concussion. By teaching athletes what concussion symptoms are, and that all symptoms are serious enough to report, these numbers could be reduced significantly. In addition to this lack of awareness, some athletes play through a concussion because of a personal desire to play or team pressure to play, even if they are aware that their symptoms are serious. According to the same study, 50% of unreported concussions were unreported because a player did not wish to leave the game or practice, and an additional 50% did not wish to let down teammates or coaches. For these situations, a strict concussion protocol is necessary for the athlete's own good. Players would be safer if not allowed to compete or practice again after any sign of concussion symptoms until they get a doctor's approval, regardless of whether or not they wish to play.
Still, this is not to say that you don't do anything to prevent concussions in high school sports. There are anti-concussion rules in local sports leagues, such as no headers in soccer below 7th grade. Additionally, there are guidelines for returning to play, as described here by Sunset Athletic trainer Carrie Cunningham.
And then once they're symptom-free, then we do their graduated return to play, which includes getting a doctor's clearance note.
As evidenced by the general lack of advocacy for tightening concussion protocol, many people hold the mindset that these rules are as much as reasonably can be done to prevent concussions. However, based on our own research and investigation, we can see that practices and regulations currently in place are not doing enough to prevent concussions, at least at the high school level. Based on a survey of 26 concussed high school athletes, 48% did not immediately leave the game following their concussions. The trainer can testify to this problem.
There still seems to be this disconnect where the athlete isn't either A, reporting that they're having symptoms, or B, they're not recognizing the symptoms they're having as concussion related.
Additionally, 30% of students did not receive a doctor's approval before returning to play, meaning the policy of needing a doctor's approval is not well enough enforced. These statistics are in accordance with broader research on concussions. Sunset athletes are playing through concussions, either because they are not educated on the risks of concussions, or there is not proper system in place to keep them out of the game. Both of these statistics show dangerous actions that put players at significant risks for repeat concussions.
To minimize the harm done by concussions, we should implement the following changes to local youth and high school sports leagues. First, we should enforce the return to play protocol more strictly in school, club, and rec leagues to help the percentage of athletes returning to play without a doctor's approval fall from 30 to 0.
Second, we should make rule changes in local sports leagues that will help prevent head injuries. One example is bringing the NCAA rule of targeting into high school football. Targeting is called when a player aims for the head of the person they're tackling and results in the player being ejected from the game.
Lastly, there should be a mandatory preseason concussion training for athletes in which a player learns about the signs, symptoms, and effects of concussions, so themselves and their teammates will be more likely to recognize and point out a potential head injury.
Here's how the hypothetical head injury scenario from the start of this video might play out with these rule changes and policy changes in place.
You alright?
Yeah, that was a pretty big hit. I'm a little shaken up. I feel like I should just sit for the rest of the game. I don't want to risk having a concussion.
Yeah, definitely sit out.
Alright, keeper, I know you're going for the ball, but head injuries are pretty serious, so if you could try to keep your hands away from him, that'd be great.
Okay, sorry, ref.